Hello everyone, good evening. You all are well. So we are into the 10th class of environment ecology, and today we are going to learn about conventions and acts, right? We'll see two laws. One is Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and second we are going to go to the Biodiversity Act 2002. So these are two laws which we are going to cover, and we'll see the various biodiversity conventions. That will be our first topic in the classroom. As usual, I will take questions, right? I'll give you certain type of practice of questions also there. So this class is also going to be very, very important for all types of examinations, whether you appear in UPSc exam or any kind of examination. So I'm going to teach you all various aspects of conventions and legal acts linked with biodiversity part. Right, we are going to cover all those areas there. So without wasting much time, just I want to inform one very important aspect, that you have one document in your login page. If it is not there, in just a few minutes that document will be uploaded to your login page. That is on the Ramsar site. We are going to discuss in the classroom about Ramsar sites in India. We have now 42 Ramsar sites in India, which are wetlands of international importance, and that will be uploaded. You can download from your login page. All right. So it is all in the process there. So so your classroom number 10th, right? Let me check it out there. If you have got the document there, yes, it has been uploaded there. The document has been uploaded. Right. The document has been uploaded now. Kindly download the document from your handout. There is a document named as Ramsar Sites of India. It is there in your login page. Please download that. And once you download it, please let me know that you have done or you have downloaded there. So please let me know once you have downloaded from your login page. Right? So already one document has been now uploaded. Kindly check your login page and please respond me that you have downloaded the document. All right, Kanika has answered that. Okay, Parul Kumar also has done that. Vishwanath Tigadi is also there. All right, very good, very good. I am seeing your responses. I am just seeing your responses. So it has been downloaded. That's really good. Very, very good. That you have downloaded. You have downloaded the document. That is really good. Good, very good. Say I will be continuously monitoring your responses. I am going to continuously monitor your response. So it's all right that it has been now downloaded. That's really good there, and I'm going to continuously monitor whatever your responses are. Good. So let us start with the topic. So first topic what we are going to cover in the classroom, that is a biodiversity convention. All right, we are starting with the biodiversity conventions there, and the first important convention here, that is the CBD. Convention on Biological Diversity. So let us first discuss these three conventions, then we'll go to the last convention, Ramsar there. So Convention on Biological Diversity. Second convention is here, is called as a Convention on International Trade. Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species. Endangered species of wild fauna and flora. This convention is called CITES or CITES, Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. In short, it is called as a CITES or CITES, or it is also called as a CITES. That is, you can pronounce it as a CITES or CITES, whatever may be that. And the third convention is CMS, Convention on Migratory Species. Migratory species of animals, what is called as a CMS. Third convention is Convention on Migratory Species, what is called as CMS. Right? Now CBD here, the first convention, it was in 1992. So let me give you all points on this flowchart here. Now what is the first point about CBD is that this convention, Convention on Biological Diversity or CBD, all these three are UN conventions. All these three conventions are from United Nations, right? And all these come under UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, which is a body, specialized agency under the United Nations. So it all comes into that. Many times in the question paper, you will come across a word intergovernmental. Intergovernmental means it is by the governments. Like India as a member country, as a party to the convention, has signed and ratified. Ratification means acceptance. That India has joined all three conventions what I have written on the whiteboard here. So now Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, is a very landmark convention which was brought in the year 1992. In the year 1992, there was a very important conference, right? It is a very important conference organized by the United Nations General Assembly. You all are aware of the name, Earth Summit. Earth Summit or Rio Conference or Rio Earth Summit, which was organized by the United Nations in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. What is called as Earth Summit, 1992. During the Earth Summit, during the Rio de Janeiro Rio Conference, there was a very important document which was brought by governments called as Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is a blueprint of sustainable development for 21st century. What is Agenda 21? Agenda 21 is the blueprint of sustainable development for 21st century. A very important 400 plus pages document was finalized by the governments during 1992 Rio Earth Summit. And a lot of initiatives on sustainable development have been taken worldwide under Agenda 21. Agenda 21. Many times in the question paper, you will come across this Agenda 21. It's a very, very important document, you can say initiative by the United Nations in terms of promoting sustainable development worldwide. Now, what do you mean by sustainable development? Sustainable development means a type of development, a form of development which optimally use resources. Natural resources what we use, right? Better use of resources, right? Use of resources in such a manner that not only our generation, present generation, can use all the resources for our own benefit in a manner that these resources are also available for our future generations. The future generations, let's say our children, grandchildren, grandchildren, they also have the same resources what we as at this present generation is able to use that. That is what called sustainability. So let's say biological resource, biodiversity, right? It is a heritage of mankind. We have got all types of flora and fauna, all biodiversity on the earth has come from thousands of years of evolution. And it is our duty that we as a human beings and we as a present generation have a duty that these resources are conserved. We must protect the resource. so that these resources are equally available to our children and grandchildren. That's where the word sustainability comes. So CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity, is a very, very important convention which talks about use of genetic resources and how we use in a sustainable manner, right? So here, what I'm coming here in this context here, it was adopted, or you can say proposed. I am writing on the board, it was proposed under Agenda 21. Right? I am underlining the word. Under the Agenda 21, right, that is the initiative, sustainable development initiatives of Rio Earth Summit. Rio Earth Summit, or what is called Rio Conference on Earth, on Environment, 1992. In the year 1992, this proposal was put forward by the governments that let there be an international treaty, multilateral agreement to deal with the sustainable use of biological resources or genetic resources. And in this context, this CBD was brought into that. Now this CBD, what is next aspect of that? What are the objectives here? It has got 3 objectives. There are 3 objectives of the CBD, right? What it aims to achieve, the 3 important objectives of the Convention on Biological Diversity. Now what are those objectives? I'll write on the whiteboard. The first objective, as it is very clear, that is in terms of conservation of biodiversity. Conservation of biological diversity worldwide. So first point comes here, conservation of biodiversity. Right? What is the first part of it? Conservation of biodiversity. Wherever the biodiversity exists on the earth, all countries, developed, developing, or less developed countries, all countries shall work towards fulfilling the kind of conservation, fulfill the conservation aspect of animals and plants, flora and fauna and all things. That's where the conservation part comes. Now what is second aspect here? Second objective here is that is in terms of sustainable use. Sustainable use of genetic resources, whatever resources we get for food, for medicine, for timber, whatever biological resource we get from plants and animals, it has to be used in a sustainable manner. So second objective of CBD is the sustainable use of genetic resources. What is genetic resources? What we obtain from plants and animals based on the genetic aspect of that, right? So that's where the genetic resources comes into that, right? And please do write all whatever I am explaining here. So sustainable use of genetic resources. The last sentence what I am writing here is the genetic resources. Sustainable use of genetic resources which come from the biodiversity, genetic resources. Now third objective, I am writing on the top here, the third objective of this convention, right, I am writing on the top here. Third objective is that fair, it is a very, very unique objective, fair and equitable. It talks about fair and equitable, right, benefit sharing. Fair and equitable benefit sharing from the market use of resources. When we use any kind of biological resource in terms of economic aspect, market aspect of that, it has to be used in a fair manner, and whatever the benefits are there, that has to be shared among stakeholders, shared among the local communities. So there is a BS, what is called benefit sharing. So fair and equitable benefit sharing, right, to the local community. The benefit has to be shared, right, from market use of, from economic use of resources, from market use of resources. market use of genetic resources. Whatever the market use of genetic resources are there, right? Those market use of genetic resources have to be fairly used, and the benefit has to be distributed among the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Who provide the resources? Who provide us the resources? They have an equal right to use the resource and get a profit or benefit from such resources, right? I'll just repeat there. Those of you cannot see the whiteboard completely, I'll read out the sentences. 3 objectives, I'm reading out the sentence. First one, conservation of biological diversity. Number two is sustainable use of genetic. The last sentence you are not able to read. Genetic, Genetic. Sustainable use of genetic resources. Third point I have written here, fair and equitable benefit sharing arising from market use of genetic resources. I read out there, fair and equitable benefit sharing from market use of genetic resources. Here the last sentence, that is a sustainable use of genetic resources. Sustainable use of genetic resources, right? That is the last sentence which you cannot see, genetic resources, sustainable use of that. So 1992, this proposal which came by the United Nations is a landmark convention which deal with the biodiversity part of it, right? Now what I'm coming here, let's understand here. Another convention, that is a CITES, CITES. Now this convention is also called as a Washington Convention, Washington DC in USA. So what is very important here, this convention was proposed, first time it came into existence, proposed in 1973, right? During a conference of UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, in Washington DC. That's what the place where first time the CITES was proposed. It is also called as Washington Convention. It is also called as the Washington Convention. So what I've written, the first point, proposed in 1973 during a conference, right? Environmental conference of UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, in Washington DC. That's what in bracket I've written. It is another name of the convention of CITES as Washington Convention, right? Now what is the objective here? Now objective of CITES is that, what is the full form of the convention? Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species, CITES, international trade. There are sometimes the trade, commerce or trade happens with the sample or specimen of wild animals and plants which go from one country to another. But there are species which are threatened with extinction. We have already discussed in the classroom IUCN Red Data book. So there may be species of animals or plants which are on brink to extinction. Right? They need utmost protection. If they are not protected, what will happen? They will become extinct in near future. So those type of species like tiger, elephant, one-horned rhinoceros, they need urgent protection. They need urgent conservation. And they have to be protected under the international trade. That's what it is called. The CITES is a very landmark convention comes into that. So what is the objective here? Objective is to control here regulation of or control of trade, international trade of specimen or sample of species, both plant and animal species, right? So what is the objective of the CITES? Regulation of international trade of specimen or sample of species, so that they are protected, they are not threatened with extinction, right? So that they are not threatened with extinction. And CITES work with here the CITES work with three lists. There are three lists are there. There are three lists under which CITES work. What are those three lists? One is here called Appendix 1, where trade is prohibited. The trade is not allowed. That is called Appendix 1, right? Then you have Appendix 2, where trade is controlled, right? The trade is controlled. That is the Appendix 2. Appendix 2 is that where trade is controlled, right? You find that trade is controlled under Appendix 2. Right, Appendix 2, there trade is controlled. Appendix 1, trade is prohibited unless the government allow. If the government does not allow, normal trade of sample or specimen of wild animals and plants will not take place. It will be considered as illegal. That is called Appendix 1 of CITES. Appendix 2, that deal with those animals and plants for which trade can be controlled by the government. And Appendix 3 is that list where the one country or government protect an animal or plant from international trade under Appendix 1 or 2 and request other governments to also protect that species. I'll repeat there. What is Appendix 3? Where one government protects animal and plant either under Appendix 1 or 2, and that government requests other governments to also protect that species from international trade. That is called as Appendix 3. So all this control which happens, that happen with the help of three lists: Appendix 1, 2 and 3. So here three lists are there under which this comes there. I will be giving you that list understanding. The three lists comes into that. Now coming to this CMS, Convention on Migratory Species, or what is called Bonn Convention. It is also called as the Bonn, B-O-N-N. Bonn is a place in Germany. Bonn Convention. So what is here Bonn Convention? This was proposed, right? Bonn Convention was proposed, right, in 1979. In 1979, during a conference, there was also a conference of the UNEP, during a conference of United Nations Environment Program of UNEP, that was held in Bonn, Germany. Bonn in Germany, this conference on migratory species was organized by the UNEP. Which year? 1979, by the United Nations Environment Program. In the German city of Bonn, a conference was held, and during that conference, to protect the migratory species, this particular convention was launched. Now what is the objective of the Bonn Convention? So from the name it is very clear. From the name it is very clear. What is the name here? Convention on Migratory Species. Like you know that migratory species which migrate from one country to another. Siberian crane which migrate from Siberia to India and then getting back to Siberia. But now it has stopped coming to India. Right, Amur falcon, another bird species which migrate from Amur, Siberia part of Russia up to Nagaland, and again it goes to Africa and then return back. Right, bird species which are migratory birds. Even sometimes you know the dolphins, Irrawaddy dolphin, which migrate from Irrawaddy Delta of Myanmar through Bay of Bengal to Chilika Lagoon in Odisha. Irrawaddy dolphin is a migratory marine dolphin. Right? I'll give you example of migratory species like olive ridley turtles, marine turtle like olive ridley turtles. They also migrate in the ocean, and large number of olive ridley turtles, they arrive for arribada. Arribada is a Spanish word for mass nesting. They come in large number to Odisha, Rusikulia, then mouth of the river Devi, Gahir Matha. Again, there is a marine turtle which migrate. Shark, hammerhead shark, humpback dolphin, right, bottlenose dolphin. All these are migratory, right? All these are migratory. Birds can be migratory, marine species can be migratory. Even mammals, land-based mammals can also migrate. For example, African elephant, Africa elephant, a group of elephant which go around a large, right, range, geographical range, covering number of countries. African elephants is a migratory animal. So elephant can be there, land-based mammal also can be there. So all such migratory species which are under threat, they are protected under the Bonn Convention. UNEP in 1979 held a conference to protect such migratory species in 1979, and then this convention came into existence. It is also called as Bonn Convention because of the country place where it was first time was launched. So Bonn Convention. Now what is objective? Objective is what? Conservation management. Conservation and management. Conservation and management of migratory species. I am writing on the board here. Of migratory species. Of migratory species in their range state, in their range countries. Whichever range country they migrate, their habitats need to be protected. So what is the objective I have written here? I'll read out there. Those of you cannot see that. Conservation and management of migratory species, right, in their, THEIR, their range states, STATES. State is a word in international form, it is called country. Nations and country, they are also called state. In the international sphere, they are called states. So first I gave you the general understanding of the convention. These are three conventions which you have general understanding, which I have discussed that. I'll go to more detailed part of it, don't worry. I will cover more detailed aspect. But first in the flow chart, what is called something called mind map. Right, mind map means when you see your note copy, so at a glance, at a look, you can say, okay, site, CMS, CVD. What are the main points? So these are the first main points I've given on those conventions, what you have right now written there. All right. So please copy this whiteboard, and once you have copied, please let me know. Once you have copied, please let me know so that I can add more aspect on that. Right. So let me see here. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. I'll give you more detail. Don't worry. I know that there may be a number of doubts and queries coming to your mind. I will be answering that. But first of all, you write this. First of all what I've written on the whiteboard, please do write that. I will expand on that. I will give you more aspect on that. But first you write it there. Anything you have a problem in reading the whiteboard, you're not able to read on the whiteboard, or you're not able to write anything. First you copy this whiteboard. Once you have copied the points, then I'll give you more points on that, more information on that. Alright, so many of you have copied it, that's really good. The three conventions, what I gave you, the just important highlight of that, with the year and everything, right? That's the first thing which you have to write that. Alright, so you have written there, that's really good there. So now let's understand here. I'll just come to the main point of it. Thank you everyone, thank you. Yeah, you can say treaty also there. Conventions and treaties, they are one and the same one. So don't worry about that. So you can call it that. There's no problem on that. Now let's say there is another convention called Ramsar Convention. What is another convention called Ramsar Convention? Now Ramsar Convention is on the wetlands of international importance. There is another convention called a Ramsar Convention. Right? There is another convention. We'll see the detailed part. On biodiversity part, there is another convention called Ramsar Convention. We'll see the detailed part of it, and that is on the International Treaty for Conservation and Sustainable Development or Sustainable Utilization of Wetlands. We'll see in today's class what is a wetland. I will be discussing that point of what is a wetland and their values. We'll see that. Now what I would like to add here, let me just ask a certain question here. KBC question here. What I discussed that based on that, let's say question number 1. A very simple question I am writing. Which of following is our international treaty or convention related to biological diversity? Let's say you have this kind of a question here, a very simple question I am giving here, right? And let's say for example you have options here: CBD, sites, Bonn Convention, and let's say Ramsar Convention. Let's say very simple question. If it comes in the exam, let's say you get a simple question like this, and you are given the option here. The options are like here: 1 only, 1 and 2 only, 1, 2 and 4 only, and all of this 1, 2, 3, 4. So what will be answer here? Let's say this question comes in the exam, a direct question. You get a direct question in the exam where it is asked that which of the following is our international treaty or convention related to biodiversity part. It's a very simple question which you can easily solve that, right? So here I have already written on the whiteboard. I have already explained on the whiteboard, right? The 3 convention. Ramsar Convention, right, is on wetlands, wetland convention there, right? So it's a very simple question. So what shall be the answer here? Let's say the question comes on in the exam, then what shall be the answer here? What shall be the answer here? What shall be the answer here? Okay, I am not able to see your response. Anyway, what I'll do here, I'll just mark here. So here, the answer, you know that the answer will be all of this. D as an answer. All of these are conventions linked with biodiversity. So the answer is CBD, Convention on Biodiversity. CITE is on the international trade. Bonn Convention, that is on migratory species. That is CMS. Bonn Convention is the CMS. That is called Convention on Migratory Species. And Ramsar Convention also. So our answer will be D, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So answer is D here. So all of these are correct. Now let's look at this question. Question number 2. Which of following is not an objective? Let's say if you get a question like this, which of following is not an objective of the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity? Let's say this question comes and you have here A, conservation of biodiversity. See, a question setter can set question in different manner. There can be a different way the question can be asked in the exam. Sustainable use of genetic resources arising from biodiversity. C, compilation of red list of threatened species. And D, let's say here, fair and equitable sharing of benefit is a very simple question here. You can easily solve this question there. Benefits arising from market use of genetic resources. It's a very simple question. Let's say this question comes in the exam. Okay, which of these is not an objective of the CBD? Not an objective. Which is not an objective of that. So A, conservation of biodiversity. B, sustainable use of genetic resources. C, compilation of red list of threatened species. Right? And fair and equitable benefit sharing. So not, the word is not here. So word is not here. So what does that mean? The answer will be C. Because A and B and D are objectives of the CBD. A, B and D are objectives of the CBD, but the C, compilation of red data book, that is the work of IUCN, not the CBD. So I have asked here in the question here not an objective. I have asked the question here not an objective. So not an objective, so answer will be C here. C is not an objective of the CBD. Correct? That is another way where question can be asked. Now let's say, for example, third question here. Question number 3. Which of following is our, let's say, biodiversity conventions? I am giving another question here. Conventions under Agenda 21, and let's say I am giving the option here. Ramsar Convention, CITES, right? Third one I am giving here, CBD, and fourth, let's say, Bonn Convention. Convention on Native Species of Animal, Bonn Convention. So what will be answer here? It's a very simple question here. A very simple question I have given here. It's a very simple question. Which of the following conventions come under Agenda 21 of Rio Earth Summit? Sustainable Development Agenda, that comes into that. Ramsar is not there. Ramsar, we'll see that. We'll discuss in the classroom there. CITES, I have already mentioned. CITES was in 1973. Agenda 21 came in 1992. CBD is another. So here the answer of this question will be 3 only. What is answer here? Answer is 3 only. The answer will be B here, 3 only. Right, the answer is 3 only. CBD. CBD came in Agenda 21. Alright, other 3s have not come. Now let's look at here. So this is question number 3. Now let me come to the question number 4. Now let me set here another question here. A very simple question again. Arrange in ascending order of existence of following conventions. See, there can be different ways the question can be asked in the exam. Conventions of biodiversity. Arrange them. And let's say I am giving here, the list is there. One is CBD, second list I have given here CMS, third I have given here CITES, and fourth I am giving here, that is a, let's say fourth one, you have here fourth I am giving here, that is a Ramsar. Right? And I am asking you to arrange that. Let's say option A, right? Ascending order. Ascending matlab from ascending here means, let me write more better word. Let me write a more better word, because ascending will give you confuse you there. So it's better let me write here from old to new. This will make you more clear here, right? From old to new order there, from old to new. And now I am giving the choice here, right? I am giving the choice here 1, 2, 3, 4. Second choice I am giving here, that is a 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And then I am giving here the next choice here, that is a 4, 3, 1 and 2. And the fourth option I am giving here, let's say here 1, 2, 4 and 3, right? Now Ramsar convention you are not aware, right? From Ramsar convention you are not aware. Now Ramsar convention was in 1971. When Ramsar convention was proposed, 1971, Ramsar is a place in Iran. So Ramsar convention was in 1971. Right, Ramsar convention was on 1971 in Iran. Right, CMS 1979, CITES 1973, and CBD 1992. Right, so from old to the new. So what is from old to the new here? So from old to the new here. So oldest one is the Ramsar 1971. Then comes CITES. Then comes CMS Bond Convention, and then comes this one. So answer is B. Answer becomes B. This is another way the question can be asked in the exam. The answer will be B here. This is another way where question can be asked in the exam. This is the way you could expect the question in the exam. Right? This is the way the question can be asked in the exam. Alright? So this is another way which you have to remember. So a question setter can set question in multiple manner. There can be different ways the question can be asked in the exam, and you have to be prepared with it. If you know the basic aspect, it will not be a difficult task for all of you to understand and go through the areas of environment and ecology. You will be able to solve the question in a better manner there, right? Now what I am coming here, this 4 question what I have discussed right now, right? The 4 question what I have just gave you an idea ki what basically these 4 areas are there, right? Now let's understand there is something called protocol. What is called here? Protocol. What is protocol? Protocol is a legally binding agreement which binds the government to take action. They are called as a protocol, right? They are called as a protocol, right? Legally binding agreement which governments have to follow. They are called protocols, right? So let us understand here. What I'm now coming here, that is in terms of the protocol, right? I am coming to the protocol. So the list of binding agreement which bind the government to take action. They are called as the protocols. Now CBD I mentioned, CBD has got three objectives. We have discussed in the classroom there. Now let's come to the protocols. There are here protocols of CBD. Now let's look at protocols of the CBD. What do you mean by protocol? What is a protocol? A protocol is a legally binding agreement. Is a legally binding agreement. Is a legally binding agreement, right? Under they are brought under the convention. Under convention, whichever convention is there, under the convention, which binds the government to follow its guidelines, its objective, that is called as a protocol. And protocol comes under the convention. Protocol comes under the convention, right? So when we study about protocol, it will be always under a convention, and always under a treaty. So here CBD, Convention on Biodiversity, 92, the three objectives. So what is the very important aspect here? It has got a first protocol. I'm talking about Convention on Biodiversity. The first protocol, that is called Cartagena Protocol. The first protocol which comes here, there is a Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. What is the name of the legally binding agreement under the CBD, under the Convention of Biodiversity? It is called as the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. So that is also called CPB. Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, right? Now Cartagena is a place in South America, American country called as a Colombia. In there is a country called Colombia in South America, where in the year 2000 this was proposed, and 2003 it got ratified. What is ratification? Where minimum number of government agree to the protocol. That is where it's called ratification. India has signed and ratified Cartagena Protocol, right? So Cartagena Protocol, it was adopted. It was adopted in 1970, 2000 there, when there was a summit. When there was a summit in the of the government of the CBD, because when you come across, you will always find that there are conferences which are organized, right? There are conferences which are organized by the convention, the body of the convention, and and then they propose. They basically propose that in terms of objectives, what they want to achieve, right? So it was proposed here. It was proposed in 2000 when there was a conference organized by the CBD in Colombia, country of South America, where the place is Cartagena, and then it got implemented. It got ratified, right? Implemented. It implemented from September 2003. India has signed. India has signed this particular protocol, and it is a very, very important protocol. Now let's understand this protocol. What is the objective of this protocol? Right? What does this protocol objective comes into that? What is the objective of the protocol? The objective of this protocol or legally binding agreement under Convention on Biodiversity is that it defines here. It has a biosafety, biological safety guidelines. It consists of biosafety guidelines, right? On this link, so remember that this particular protocol link biotechnology, modern biotechnology with biodiversity conservation. Like for example, genetic modified crop, GM crops, GM animals, genetic modified organisms, GMO, and what threat it can be on the environment and biodiversity. That was first time looked under this particular legally binding agreement called Cartagena Protocol. So here, biosafety guidelines on the use. It looks into on the use, right? Use. Second, what is that here? Certification. What is something called labeling? Certification, right? Then again comes packaging. How do you package that particular genetic modified organism? Packaging. Then comes transport. As it is transported from one place to another, transport. And there is another word called here import and export, that is called transboundary, right? Transboundary movement, right? Transboundary movement of, now this protocol talks about a kind of organisms that are called living modified organism. What is the word here? LMO, which is genetic modified organism. Living modified organisms. Those organisms which are, right, modified, those which are modified, right, which are modified with the use of biotechnology, right, with the use of biotechnology, they are called LMO, living modified organisms. So what is the objective of this Cartagena protocol under the CBD? That is the use certification. What is certification means? Label. Certification means here genetic label, GM, let's say, GM food. There's a lot of debate going around GM food, right, genetic modified food and all, which comes to Europe and American market and all. So here it basically talks about labeling, how the labeling has to be done of the GM food, right? Packaging, how do you package, let's say, genetic modified bacteria, where scientists in the lab, they use genetic engineering. What they use? Genetic engineering. And they modify bacteria, they modify plant. Like in India, we are using BT cotton. You all are aware that in India we are using BT cotton. What is BT cotton? A gene from a bacteria, soil bacteria called as Bacillus thuringiensis. That gene has been added to the cotton through genetic engineering. So if we transport such kind of a GMO, genetic modified organism, if there is any spill or is there any accidental release to the environment, so what damage it will cause, what impact will be there. So that's what called here labeling, certification, GM food, GM crops. Then packaging, transport, how do we transport that? The guidelines are there, there are something, guidelines, safety guidelines. Then comes here transboundary. What is transboundary movement? Here the word transboundary movement. What is transboundary movement? Transboundary movement means here import and export. Let's say Indian government can import from outside, or from India it can be exported to other countries, right? So it's basically transboundary here means that is import and export. Transboundary movement means this one, from one country to another. So that is covered under the Cartagena protocol, biosafety. So what is the very important here? So this protocol, right, this protocol of CBD, what it does, this protocol links modern biotechnology, this method of modern biotechnology where we modify the organism of plants, animals, bacteria, right? This protocol links modern biotechnology with conservation of biodiversity, with conservation of biological diversity, so that biodiversity loss shall not take place. Conservation of biodiversity. We have already discussed that in previous class about threats to biodiversity. We have already covered in the classroom threats to biodiversity, where the loss of the biodiversity can be there. So that's where the Cartagena protocol comes. Now what happened recently? Recently, let's say for example, just take example. I'll just move away from the board so that you can write there. Let me stand here. Let's say for example, recently a new supplementary agreement has been added to the Cartagena protocol. India has signed. India has already signed and accepted Cartagena protocol. Now what is the thing here? Let's say in India we use GM crops. Suppose that in India we are having BT cotton. Suppose that in India we are growing such kind of GM crops, and because of the GM crop there is some damage caused to the environment, damage caused to the living organism, other species. There is a health impact, human health impact. So who will be liable? Now the question is that who will bear the liability? Who will be liable to pay for the damage? If there is any loss or damage caused, who have to pay for the damage? So this protocol, the mother protocol, has been now added with a supplementary protocol. What is called here? Supplementary protocol. A protocol which supplement this particular protocol. So there is something called Nagoya, Kuala Lumpur. Right? Nagoya is a place in Japan. Kuala Lumpur is a place in Malaysia. Right? Nagoya, Kuala Lumpur supplementary protocol on liability for the damage caused by the LMO, living modified organism. That I am adding from current aspect. That is from the current affairs point of view, right? So what is here? There is a supplementary protocol which has been added, right? Supplementary protocol which has been added here. So let's understand here. When you go to the web page, right? When you go to the web page here, please keep on writing whatever I am writing on the board. So let's understand here. This one, Cartagena protocol. This is the home page of Cartagena protocol from CBD here. See here, what is given here? Same thing what I have written on the board. You can read from here. Convention on Biological Diversity is an international agreement which aims to ensure the safe handling, transport and use of living modified organisms resulting from modern biotechnology that may have adverse effect on biological diversity, taking into account risks to human health. It was adopted on 29th January 2000 and entered into force. It was implemented from 11 September 2003. How many governments have signed it here? 173 countries have signed. How many governments have signed? 173 countries have signed. And this can be a question. This can be your question in the exam. This can be asked in the UPSc exam or any exam you can come into that, right? This is what I have written the point on the whiteboard. On the whiteboard, I have written this point, right? Whatever I am writing the point, please go along with that. I am going to all detailed part, all aspect on that. And this is a very new type of topic you are learning in the classroom. So Cartagena protocol on biosafety, which link with the biological safety of such GM varieties, genetically modified varieties, right? So now if you look at here, this supplementary protocol, if I just add here, if you see here, the supplementary protocol, what I'm adding here, supplementary protocol to the Cartagena protocol, we supplement there. Now see here, this is the one. Nagoya Kuala Lumpur supplementary protocol on liability and redress to the Cartagena protocol on biosafety. A supplement to the Cartagena protocol. This was brought, it was adopted as a supplementary protocol to the Cartagena protocol, right? It contributes to the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity by providing international rules. There are international rules and procedures, right, in the field of liability and redress relating to LMOs, living modified organisms. So this was a response measure taken in the event of damage. If there is any damage caused by GM varieties, so who will take the liability, who will redress the grievance? For that it came into that. And how many countries have so far has joined it? There's so number of countries, number of government which have signed, accepted are 49. You can see 49 are there. Australia has recently ratified that. And when you go to more, so you'll find here information here. So it was adopted, see here, what is here? It was adopted on 15th October 2010. 15th October 2010, it was adopted during the Nagoya summit and it came into force on 5th March 2018. The supplementary protocol came into implementation on 5th March 2018 there. So you have an entire detailed part of it. When you read here, you'll come across the detailed part of it. Okay, whatever may be the damage which is caused here, right? Whichever the damage is caused there, right? That is now gives you the information on that, right? So it was ratified in 2014. Now it came into effect in the year 2018. So I'll come back to the whiteboard. What I discussed on this one, I'm coming to the whiteboard here. This is what I have written the point. This is what I have written on the point on the whiteboard, right? So what is very important here? Third point, which I have just mentioned here. Third point is what? There is a supplementary protocol to the damage and redressal to the LMO with respect to Cartagena. So that is here supplementary protocol, right? Supplementary protocol. Supplementary protocol, right? Called as, what is it called? Nagoya. Where is Nagoya? Nagoya is in Japan. There was a conference in Japan in the year 2010, Nagoya summit. So Nagoya, Kuala Lumpur. supplementary protocol on redress and liability. Right? So what have it is? Redress and liability. So supplementary protocol called as Nagoya Kuala Lumpur Supplementary Protocol on Redress and Liability, right, was adopted. When it was adopted? It was adopted in 2010 during Nagoya Summit in Japan, 2010. I've underlined that, 2010. And when it came into effect and implemented from 2018. When it came into effect, 2018, March 2018. I've underlined 2018, right? So this is the way you have to learn. You have to know important international agreement or a treaty, right? Then you have to know the objectives when it came into that and the objectives. UPSC is not going to ask you how many countries have signed, how many countries have ratified, how many countries have joined. That GK question, general knowledge question will not be there. What you have to know? This is the convention, the objective of the convention, what it aspires, what it aims, and what are some recent development on that particular area. And within the convention, the protocol, what I am discussing right now, the first protocol of this CBD, Convention on Biodiversity, there is a Cartagena protocol. And with the Cartagena protocol, you have a supplementary protocol of damage and the liability with respect to GM varieties, living modified organism varieties, right? This is the approach you have to develop. See why in your batch, like the environment classes have been started and you are going through the topics, you are developing an approach to prepare for the exam. And I've been always telling you that I am giving you topics in advance. Please read on that, come prepared in the classroom so that you are able to understand various aspects on that. All right. So here, please write it down. What I have written here, last sentence you are not able to see. Liability was this supplementary protocol, inverted comma, was adopted in 2010 and implemented from 2018, 2018, right? Now tell me if you have any doubt. Now tell me, this is first protocol of CBD, what I discussed here. Please write all this, whatever I am giving you the notes, whatever the notes I am giving here, point wise, I am giving you point wise comprehensive notes by writing on the whiteboard. This will always help you revise before the exam. That's what my objective of providing you the brief notes is, that you are able to revise that. The detailed part is given, I am making you understand in the classroom, and the detailed part is given in the Vision Eye study material. But at least in the classroom you are able to understand and writing the main points of that. Alright. So that's where I have given on the whiteboard. So please copy that. I'll come to another protocol, but first you copy that. Right. What is a protocol? Is a legally binding agreement. It defines set of rules and everything on the aspect of that. Alright. That's where the point comes into that. What I have explained here in the part of it. Right. So now what I'll do here? If you all have copied it, then it's really good there, right? If you all have copied that, then I'll go to the next part of the protocol. It's another very important protocol. And all this can be asked in the exam. I can tell you, this all can be asked in UPSC exam. It can be direct question. It can be even direct question asked in the exam. So just understand, since you have not studied biotechnology and all, but just understand, because of the use of biotechnology, genetic engineering, which creates such kind of genetic modified organism, what we call LMO, living modified organism. So those risks has to be covered. So there has to be some safety guidelines for that. That's where the Cartagena protocol comes, right? So that's where it comes into that, right? All right. So that's what the things are there. All right. So here that's what you have to understand in that case. So what I'll do here, I'll just clean the whiteboard here, and then I'll go to the another one. Now what I'm coming here, I am now coming to a very important aspect, right? So there's another protocol called Nagoya protocol. There's another protocol called as the Nagoya protocol. Nagoya protocol on access and benefit sharing, which is third objective of the CBD. That's where the Nagoya protocol comes, right? So I'll now come to the Nagoya protocol, and let me clean the whiteboard. Since all of you have written there, I'm going to clean the whiteboard. All right. So let me clean the whiteboard here. So now the next protocol which I'm now coming across, that is the Nagoya protocol. Nagoya protocol deals with the third objective of the CBD. The third objective of the CBD, that is where Nagoya protocol comes into that. See, there are topics which will cover linked with environment in your geography class, and there are topics you will also cover in current affairs classes. So whatever topics are given to me, right, that I am trying to cover in the classroom. All right. So, so you have to read there. That's what the visionized material has been given for you to read on that. The topic which I am covering in the classroom, these are the topics which are important topics which you have to know from syllabus point of view. All right. So I'll just come to this one, Nagoya protocol. Right, Nagoya protocol on access to genetic resources. Right, access to genetic resources and fair and equitable here, and fair and equitable benefit sharing. Arising from commercial use or market use of genetic resources. From market use of genetic resources. This is where the Nagoya protocol comes. Right. Now this Nagoya protocol, now this was adopted. This was adopted or proposed, adopted during Nagoya summit. There was a Nagoya summit in Japan. So Nagoya summit held in Japan, held in 2010, and implemented from this came into effect or came into force, implemented from November 2014. When the first time this Nagoya protocol was proposed, that was proposed in 2010 in Nagoya summit in Japan, and then 2014 it got ratified and then implemented there, right? So this is the thing here. Now what is the main objective here? So here it fulfills, right? It fulfills this third objective, the third objective of the CBD, of the Convention on Biodiversity, the third objective, that is a benefit sharing. What do you mean by benefit sharing? Let me explain here. There are local communities which provide the resources. Now from that resource the medicine can be made, anti-cancer drug, anti-malarial drug, and let's say that medicine is sold in the market. The company which make the medicine is sell in the market. So whatever the profit is earned, a part of the profit shall go to the local community. That's where they call benefit sharing. Access means here using the resources, right? That's where it comes into this part here. So there is a Nagoya protocol which becomes very, very important for the examination. So it defines here, it defines the ABS agreement. There is something called ABS agreement, right? There is an agreement which has to be signed to get the benefit. Agreement, ABS agreement mechanism, right? There has to be where the local community is, who provide the resource, who can be given a part of the profit, What happens in real world? Companies, big companies like pharma companies, like medicine, drug or pharma companies, or other big companies, they use the resource, but they don't give the any kind of share of the resource to the local community who are protecting, who are conserving such biological resource. So first time in international law, or first time in global level, it has defined a framework where a benefit has to be given to local people based on this ABS mechanism. What is something called here? Access and benefit sharing. Right, agreement is there, which has the signed and that part of it. Right, so they are here, so defines their agreement mechanism, and that is where it comes into from the part of Nagoya Protocol. And we have implemented in India, we have implemented Nagoya Protocol well before 2010 under our own law called Biodiversity Act. Under Biodiversity Act 2002, we have already has the provision with respect to Nagoya Protocol. Now let me explain here. I'll explain with you some example. With one example you will be able to see here. Let's understand a very good example, right? So this is what I am coming here. So this is where you will be able to understand what I would like to bring here. There is another very important thing here. Let's understand here. So when it comes to the part of it here, what I'm now bringing here, if you see here, I'm just taking to this part which you will understand here. What I'm now coming here, that is a Nagoya Protocol. When you type here Nagoya Protocol, that you will be taken to the web page of the this Nagoya Protocol here, this one. Right. So now you can see here, this Nagoya Protocol. When you go to this one, so you have to go to the CBD website, not the any coaching institute website. All this coaching institute people have now hijacked. They've hijacked this website in the right. So go to the CBD website. There you get the information. This is the one. Right. All the coaching institutes now, in order to market their website and all, they take up all these kind of points and then try to highlight them. And when you do the Google search, all the coaching institute first website will come. But I'll request all of you, go to the website of CBD, Convention on Biodiversity. There you'll get the authentic and better information, right? So I'm just taking to that one. So let's say here this one, it will just get open up there. CBD you will find here, and this is where the first link, if you do the search here, Nagoya Protocol on Access and Benefit Sharing. This is the home page of CBD. This is the home page of CBD, what comes into that. And here if you see here, Access Benefit Sharing, now you have a document also there, what I have explained here. And you have a clearinghouse mechanism, which clears this part of it. And it gives there, like for example, 10th anniversary of Nagoya Protocol. Right, recently 10th anniversary, 2010, the Nagoya Summit in Japan, and 2020, 1 decade, 10 years of Nagoya Summit was celebrated here. Right, 10th anniversary, what is written here, 10th, and it becomes important. Again, I'll tell you that this becomes very important when there is 10 years, 25 years, 50 years. There some landmark time year is there, and that becomes important from UPSC exam point of view, where the question can be asked. So here 10th year of the Nagoya Summit was organized it, right? And here you have this conference was held, right, on the Nagoya Protocol and all this 10th anniversary. You can go to the web page and can watch all this. You have videos also there, right? You have such kind of videos also there. YouTube videos also, you can see that. I'll not play the video here, but here when you go to the web page, you find here Biodiversity Convention, Cartagena Protocol, Nagoya Protocol, countries, programs, all this comes into that. And Nagoya Protocol gives you the entire information on that, right, where you have a entire information about that, like about the Nagoya Protocol. Right, on the left hand side you have about the Nagoya Protocol. Right, about the Nagoya Protocol, and you can see that. You will be able to read that. What I have explained here, you can read that. Right, I have given the main points on the whiteboard. On the whiteboard, I have given you the main points of that. But again, when you go to the home page, of the website of the CBD and the Nagoya Protocol. There you have again the given there. What is given here? The same point, what I have written on the whiteboard. How we can distribute the benefit. Let's say by making a medicine to treat cancer and that company earn profit. So what will be ABS agreement signed with the local community? The local community who provide the resource from the plant, medicinal plant. Let's say you have a medicinal plant and from there the resource is there. And the company make the anti-cancer drug and sell in the market. So whatever profit the company earn, there may be an agreement, there can be a contract, an agreement with the local community that a part of the profit, 1% or 2% can be given to the local community. And now this will help in the more protection of the particular type of plant from which that medicine is made, right? So here you have that, you can see here 29th October 2000, 12th October 2014 it got ratified. So you have the information here, alright. So let's say I'll just give you one example. I don't know one example I'll give you one case study. What I'm doing here, I'll take one case study. Jivani, you know what Jivani? Jivani medicine, Jivani, right, drug, right? Kani tribe. Kani tribe which live in the Agasthyamala Biosphere Reserve of India, there, this is the where the Jivani medicine has been made, right? Traditional knowledge, like here, traditional knowledge to, now you can see here, Agastyamalai, right? Tropical forest of Agastyamalai hills of Western Ghat in Kerala state, there is indigenous Kani tribe. There is a local tribe called as the Kani tribe. Let me explain with a case study. What do you mean by benefit sharing? I am explaining with a case study. So here in the Agasthyamala range of Western Ghats of Kerala state, right, which is also Biosphere Reserve of India, there the Kani tribe, there is a local tribe called Kani who live in this Kerala state, and in December 1987, Dr. Palpu Pushpagandhan, he is the director of the Jawaharlal Nehru Tropical Botanical Garden and Research Institute, JNTBGRE in Kerala. He was conducting a research in that hill area, and he found that the Kani tribe, they eat some kind of plant, what is called Agastya Pacha, and that gives them the stamina. And from there the Jivani medicine has been made. See here, we'll find here. Kani, see, Kani knew the area better, so this scientist took the Kani tribe as a guide. And they have been, see here, what is given here, rich tradition of using wild plants. Kani tribes have a rich tradition of using wild plants found in the Agasthyamala, right? And the Kani tribal there, they made this one. They came into a kind of a plant. They found a plant called as a Arogya Pacha, which gives the stamina. It provides the stamina. This scientist, Dr. Palpu Pushpagandhan, he got to know that this particular plant, medicinal plant found in the Agasthyamala hills, that gives the stamina. So he came to know from the Kani tribe, that is traditional knowledge of Kani tribe. And then this medicine called Jivani, the Jivani medicine was made. And see here, so Kani tribe knew this area, and see what is the here is the immune stimulating properties. What this Agasthyamala, this Agastya Pacha, this medicinal plant has got is the immune stimulating properties, but it also boosts stamina. It boosts stamina, relieves fatigue, tiredness, and help control tumor. It also has an anti-cancerous property. It helps control tumors, right, and also help in natural defense and immune system. So they formulation, they made a drug called a Jivani. Scientists in the lab, they work on this, and they made this drug medicine called as a Jivani. The name has been given Jivani. This medicine was made, Jivani, based on the research. And this is the plant. You can see here. This is the plant. What you can see in the photograph, this is the plant. And this Jivani drug was made from extract from this plant. And the sale of the Jivani, the medicine, the Jivani sold in the market. Whatever the profit was earned is being earned from the sale of Jivani drug. A part of the profit is given to Kani tribe. Did you understand that one? Whatever the profit is being earned by sale of this Jivani medicine in the market, a part of the profit is given to the Kani tribe. This is called as benefit sharing. Right? It happens with the help of agreement. It happens with the help of agreement here. What you can see here, this medicine has been developed, and the patent. There is also patent also there. Invention on that patent has been filed. Right? Licensing has been given. Jivani invention. Commercialization has been done. Right? It has been sold in the market. And then what you find here, traditional knowledge of Jivani tribe, Kani tribe. In November, the Kani tribe, right? They formed with the assistance here trust. What is the name of the trust? They formed a trust called Kerala Kani Samudaya Chema Trust. Right? There is a trust has been formed. Kerala Kani Samudaya Chema Trust. And whatever the profit is being earned from the sale of Jivani medicine, this trust gets the share of the profit. Right? It gets the share of the profit from there. This is what you will find in this write-up here. The trust was made there and they get the profit there. Business result, benefit sharing. See here, benefit sharing for development. Did you understand what is the third objective of CBD? Did you understand what is the Nagoya Protocol? I have explained with one example. This is a very good example to understand what is benefit sharing. Right? This is a very good example. And you can see here, this benefit sharing has been done with the, which was shared. See here, this was shared with the Kani people. It has been shared with the Kani people. Right? This is, see, this is the called as the understanding. Right? This is the understanding part. What I am teaching in the classroom, all these topics which I am covering in the classroom, this is where you have to understand. Right? This is where you have to understand all this part. Right? Is it clear here? I'm very sure you would be able to understand here what I've written the points on the board. With this example, you will be able to understand what is Nagoya Protocol here. Right? And if you want to, just you can write the Kani tribe, Jivani medicine, that part you can part of it. Right? Is it clear here, everybody? So I am going to in such a way that you all are able to understand the topic. I am trying so that you are able to understand the topics in a proper way. Right? You are able to understand why such kind of agreement at international level can be very important. And what is being done in India. I don't know in your batch, there may be students coming from Kerala. They may be aware of this Jivani case there, which I have just brought there. Right? So when you read something, a concept from textbook or study material or from the class, then you have to relate with the newspaper. I've already told you how to read newspaper, how to go about newspaper, how to relate with current aspect. And monthly current affairs classes, your PT 365, all this will come into that. So that is where I'm trying to link with the current aspect. You're able to understand in that case. Alright. So I'll clean the whiteboard. So this part which I've explained here, I'm going to clean the whiteboard. So now what I'm coming here, there's another aspect which I would like to add. Like this is another aspect which you have to remember that during the Nagoya summit in Japan, right, there was another initiative, right, under the CBD there was another initiative which was there during the Nagoya summit in Japan. Now what is that initiative called as? I'm now bringing that initiative. There was an initiative called as Aichi targets. What are called Aichi biodiversity targets. Let me write on the whiteboard here. Aichi targets. Aichi targets. Aichi biodiversity targets. That again comes under CBD. It also comes under Convention on Biological Diversity. Right, CBD there. So what is Aichi targets? It is a 20 biodiversity targets. Right, this biodiversity targets, 20 targets under 5 goals, under 5 strategic goals. There's something called here strategic goals. 5 strategic goals. right? 20 biodiversity targets under 5 strategic goals, right? Where proposed, this was implemented, that was implemented under the Convention on Biodiversity, under CBD, where implemented, right here this was given as a deadline to implement by the governments or country of the CBD that were implemented from 2011. The time period was 2011 till 2020. 2011 to 2020, this 20 targets under 5 goals were proposed by the under the CBD, and then it has to be achieved by 2020. That was the target year, last year. Last year this deadline year to achieve these targets were over. Aichi is the place in Japan. So Nagoya place where the conference was organized. Nagoya comes under Aichi prefecture. In Japan it is called prefecture. Under that the place Nagoya where the conference was organized in the year 2010, October 2010. So at that time the government they proposed these 20 targets under 5 goals to protect, conserve, manage biodiversity part of it. So here this one, so this was proposed, right? When it was proposed during Nagoya summit. During Nagoya summit held in Japan in 2010, October 2010. And Government of India has also implemented these targets. India is a member party to the CBD. India has also signed and ratified Nagoya Protocol. So we also implemented these 20 targets under national goals. National goals for biodiversity, there we also implemented these targets. Now these targets have been taken forward under post 2020 agenda. These targets are now being added, because see, remember these targets are given to the governments to fulfill, but you know that targets may not always be fulfilled. There may be some kind of gaps. There will be gap in the fulfilling of targets. So what UN does, what United Nations does, let's say something is better than nothing. Something is better than nothing. Something has been achieved, and whatever has been achieved, build upon that. Whatever success has been achieved, build upon that. So 2020 is over. Last year 2020 the target year, that is over there. But again post 2020 agenda. So now being added to post 2020 agenda. Right? Of conservation of biodiversity. Conservation of biodiversity under the CBD. Right? Conservation of biodiversity. Now this at international level. Right? At the international level, this is now being done in the post 2020 agenda. All which have been achieved by 2020, let that carry forward. Let that carry forward in the future. But something called post 2020 agenda. This is where the Aichi target comes. Right? So 20 targets which have been brought under this one. So I'll take you to those 20 targets. Right? So whenever you have such kind of things which you read in newspaper, you read in the current affairs, and Vision IS will give you in the PT 365 and all this, you'll get to learn about those Aichi targets there. But again, I am adding in the classroom so that you are aware of it. During your current affairs class or PT 365, such Aichi targets or something comes from that, you should not be blank. At least you are aware of it. What is the Aichi targets? That's what I brought into the classroom. I'm linking with that current aspect, right? Current part of it, right? So here, what is the part of here? So if you see here, Aichi biodiversity targets, I'll take you to the targets. Now, I'll take you to the targets. These are the targets. I'll one by one. I'll explain you the targets here. This Aichi Biodiversity targets, what you see here, these are the 5 goals. What you see there, this is the 5 goals. This is given in your study material. This is given in your study material. Whatever I am covering in the classroom, this is all given in the study material. So please read the study material properly, right? I am not dictating the Aichi targets. I am not dictating you the goals or Aichi targets, but at least you are aware of it. These are 5 goals are there. Under this, the 20 targets are there. What is your strategic goal A? Address the underlying causes of biodiversity loss. What is the goal A? Strategic. Here, what you find here? Address the underlying causes of biodiversity loss by mainstreaming biodiversity across government and society. Under that, you have target 1 by 2020. But now it is gone, 2020 is over. So here, people are aware of values of biodiversity. I have already discussed in the classroom what do you mean by biodiversity values, ecosystem services. We have covered in the classroom TEB, the economics of ecosystem and biodiversity. So values of biodiversity. Target number 2, these values have been integrated in national and all this local development part of the government. Target 3, incentives. Subsidies given for harmful subsidies has to be removed. Positive incentives has to be added for conservation of biodiversity. Then target 4, government, business and stakeholders should achieve the sustainable production consumption of the biodiversity part. Now goal B. What is goal B? Reduce the direct pressure on biodiversity and promote sustainable use. Reduce the pressure on the biodiversity which cause threat to the biodiversity. And you can see your target 5, rate of loss of natural habitats have to be decreased, which include forest also. It has to be made 0. Then it was not achieved. Then target 6 is on fish and aquatic organism there. Target 7 is on agriculture, aquaculture, forestry. Target 8 is on pollution aspect, excess nutrients and all this one. Target 9 is on invasive alien species. We have already discussed in the classroom what is invasive alien species, exotic species. Parthenium, lantana. I have also already shown you in the classroom Burmese python. All these you have already covered in the previous class, right? Target 10, the pressure on the ecosystem and the climate change impact of climate change and ocean acidification on the marine biodiversity. Then goal number C, status of biodiversity by safeguarding ecosystems, species and genetic diversity. And target 11 is that 17% of land-based, terrestrial and inland water, 10% of coastal marine areas need to be protected. Target 12, extinction of species, what we have covered, threatened species, red data book, right? So extinction of threatened species have to be prevented, right? Then again target 13, genetic diversity, cultivated plants. Those plants which are cultivated, the cultivated plants there in terms of farmed and domesticated animals, that has to be again maintained. Strategic goal D, enhance the benefit to all from biodiversity ecosystem services. We have already covered TEB. If you recall, one of the biggest problem with your batch may be that the students may not be reading what I've taught in the previous classes. Right? So please see from the class 1 onward what all things I've taught in the classroom. So biodiversity part I have already taught you the services. What is the ecosystem services? What do you mean by biodiversity values? So here comes essential services and all. And here I am not going to explain. You already know what are the ecosystem services. You already know what are biodiversity values. I am just building upon that. Target 15, resilience of ecosystem. Biodiversity in terms of carbon stock, photosynthesis, right? Absorption of CO2 gas. So all this one. Then Nagoya Protocol, target 16. Ratification of Nagoya Protocol, what we have explained right now, and their ratification. Goal E, implementation. Enhance implementation through participatory planning, knowledge management and capacity building. Target 17, all the government, all the parties, they should participate and update national biodiversity strategy. Like Aichi targets have been added under National Biodiversity Action Plan, NBAP, National Biodiversity Action Plan of India. They have already added there. Target 18, traditional knowledge. And I have already given you a case study of Jivni medicine of Kani tribe from Agasthamala. So traditional knowledge, TK, protection of traditional knowledge, innovation, practice of indigenous local communities. That was protection from the target 18 there. Target 19, knowledge, science-based technologies related to biodiversity, its value status that has to be preserved. And target 20, that is the mobilization of finance, funding, the fund which is required, finance for biodiversity conservation. That's the target number 20, finance, the funding which is required for conservation and management of biodiversity, so that all these goals can be implemented. These are the 20 targets. What I've just mentioned here, these are the 20 targets which the government had to fulfill by 2020. Now 2020 is over, right? Now 2020 is already over, right? 2020 is already over. All the governments were not able to achieve all the targets, right? Now these targets you don't have to memorize. Let me make it very clear. You don't have to mug up. You don't have to memorize all these targets. This has to be understood in context of whatever topics I have covered in the classroom. In terms of biodiversity, whatever I have discussed in the classroom, you have to understand from that perspective. In India also we are implementing these IC targets. And I am telling you that your batch is the new batch. Your batch is the new batch. You are going to learn a lot of things in the coming time there, right? That's what I'm saying, that though your environment class was started in the beginning of the batch, but you are still going to learn a lot of things in other areas of general studies and in the current affairs. I'm at least trying to guide you, take you to that level, so that when those topics will come in the class, then you are able to understand, right? So those targets don't have to be memorized. You don't have to ratify. You have to understand those targets. So 2020 was the deadline year. It is over. Now these are coming to the post 2020 agenda. These have been now added to the post 2020 agenda, right? Now what I'll do here, whatever I've explained here, right? All this part which I've made you understanding part, I'll just take two questions. I'll just take two questions to make you understand how UPSC can ask questions on this topic what I've discussed that. I've already taken 4 questions. I'll add 2 more questions, right? Then we'll go to the next convention and all. So let us now, what I'll do here is that, let me just add here 2 questions on that. So let's see here. The first question what I'm adding here, that is a question number 5. Statement type question here. Statement type question. Which of following statements is or correct? Statement type question here. Let's say you get a question in the exam of this type, and I'm getting here for first one. Nagoya Protocol defines rules and guidelines to implement benefit sharing from commercial use of genetic resources. Direct question, the first statement I have given here. Second, Nagoya Protocol is also one of 20 Aichi biodiversity targets. See, a question setter can ask you question in different forms. A question setter can ask you from any aspect of the subject, right? Third statement, India has fulfilled Aichi targets and India has fulfilled Aichi targets and Nagoya Protocol completely by 2020. See, I can give you any type of statements. A question setter can give you any type of statement there. There can be any type of statement given to you, any type of points can be given to you. The three statements I have given. And the question is that which of these following is are correct? A, 1 only, B, 1 and 2 only, C, 1, 2 and 3, and D, none. Let's say you get a question like this one, right? You get a question of this type. It can be asked, statement type questions are being asked in the exam, and let's say you get a question of this type. So what shall be the answer here? This is called understanding. This is what called understanding. You read whatever you want to read, but if you have not understood the things, you will not be able to solve question properly. And there is some kind of language used in the question, different type of language which is used in the question paper there, right? The language which is used in the question paper, that becomes very, very important. I have given you a very simple question here, right? I have given you a very simple question there. Nagoya Protocol defines rules and guidelines to implement benefit sharing from commercial use of data resources. Statement number 1. Statement 2. Nagoya Protocol is also one of the 20 Aichi biodiversity targets. And number 3. India has implemented Aichi targets and Nagoya Protocol completely by 2020. Right? So what is the answer here? Statement number 1 is correct. Statement number 1 is correct. Statement number 1 is correct. Statement number 2 is also correct. Statement number 2 is also correct. Statement number 2 is also correct. This is also correct. But this is wrong. Third is wrong. The answer is B. The answer is B here. And you can see here. That's what I have explained here. If you see here, target number 16. Target 16. By 2015, Nagoya Protocol access and data resources and this all have been operational, consistent and nationalization. This has also been covered under the Aichi targets. Statement number 2 is correct. Statement number 3, completely, the word is completely is wrong. Completely word is wrong. The word completely is wrong there. What I gave you here, word completely, that is wrong. Completely word is wrong. Right? So answer is 1 and B only. 1 and 2 only there. Now let's say question number 6. Now question 6 is that which of following protocols are biodiversity protocols? Number 1, Cartagena Protocol. Number 2, Nagoya Protocol. Number 3, Kyoto Protocol. Number 4, Montreal Protocol. Again, let's say you get a question of this type and I am giving the choice here, A, 1 and 2, B, 1, 2 and 3, C 2, 3 and 4, and D 1, 2, 3 and 4. Let's say you have a question like this. Which of following protocols are bidirectional protocols? Protocol or protocols? 1 Cartagena protocol, 2 Nagoya protocol, 3 Kyoto protocol, 4 Montreal protocol. 1 and 2, 1, 2 and 3, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a very simple question. I have given you a very simple question here. So what shall be the answer here? Yes guys, what will be the answer here? I have given you a very simple question here. What shall be the answer here? Good, very good. Most of you are getting correct. Right, good, very good. So here the answer of this question, what I gave you here, the question, answer of the question, the answer is A. The answer is A here. 1 and 2. Right? Kyoto protocol is on climate change. This is on the climate change. We'll study in the classroom. I will be teaching you the climate change topic. There is a climate change. Montreal protocol is under Vienna Convention. Kyoto protocol that comes under a convention called as UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Montreal protocol is on ozone protection. That is here Vienna Convention. It comes under protection of ozone layer, Antarctica ozone hole formation over Antarctica. That's Vienna Convention. There's another convention called as the Vienna Convention, which is to protect the ozone layer. And Montreal protocol deals with ozone depleting substances. Those type of substances which deplete, right, ozone, that is called ODS. Like for example, chlorofluorocarbon, CFC, freon, which was used as a refrigerant in AC refrigerator. From domestic use of CFC or freon has been removed. Now it is not being used. I am again repeating there. Now we are not using CFC at the domestic level. The domestic use of CFC as refrigerant was removed under Montreal protocol, and Montreal protocol is under Vienna Convention, which deal with the protection of ozone layer, stratospheric ozone, good ozone. Right? So that is where the answer is 1 and 2. A as an answer there, 1 and 2. I will teach you in the classroom UNFCCC. I will also teach you in the classroom Vienna Convention. I'll cover that. You don't have to worry about that. Now I'm teaching you about biodiversity conventions, which you have to focus and understand. All right? I'm okay there. You are able to understand here. We'll see that Montreal Protocol, Vienna Convention, Kyoto Protocol, UNFCCC. I will teach you in the classroom. Don't worry. That part we will cover there. But first of all, you have to understand here. What is very important, you have to first understand this aspect of that. You have to first understand ozone layer, protection of ozone layer, Vienna Convention, climate change, and Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, UNFCCC. You will be going to learn that. Right? You know, there are students in your batch, they're too much worried about number of classes. पहले बेटा पढ़ाई पे तो ध्यान दो पढ़ाई पे तो ध्यान दो. First focus on the study, no? What is being taught in the classroom. Follow the classes there. You have to study a lot of things. There are a lot of questions, a lot of areas which you will cover in the GS. Vision Eyes will give you a lot of areas there. But I have found there is one student, I will not name the student, he is very much worried. What has been covered, what has not been covered, how many classes, he is very much worried. And you guys know that in response chat, who is that person is there. He was asking the number of classes. See, Vision IAS material which is given to you, part 1, 2 and 3, therefore your reading part. Now somebody was writing on the response chat that geography teacher says that this is covered environment. Yes, whatever the environment topics are linked with geography, that environment part I am covering in the classroom, that I am teaching in the classroom. But which are the areas of geography that geography teacher need to cover? Right? So don't worry. See, I have been given 14 classes and I'll complete my portion. See, every year Vision IS prepares the list of topics to be taught in the classroom. What geography teacher is going to teach, what environment teacher is going to teach, what history teacher is going to teach, what polity teacher. We have a set of lecture plan, or something called lecture plan. Right? And whatever based on the lecture plan, Vision IS allot number of classes to respective teachers. Since I am taking your environment class in 14 classes, that has been now allotted to me the topics which I have to teach, and I am doing my job. I am doing my job because Vision IS has a clear-cut distinction. There are many topics of environment ecology because environment is a dynamic subject. There are many topics which are there in current affairs classes covered. Your monthly current affairs classes, your PT 365, mains 365. If you go to class 1 of environment, the very first class which I took on the environment, I clearly outlined what is the entire aspect of Vision IS classes in terms of environment. And I told you very clearly there are the division of the topics. But again, when I am teaching you the topics in my class as an environment, I am adding layer by layer, like Aichi targets, Nagoya Kuala Lumpur targets. I have given you that. But those handout or written part, more detailed part, you are going to cover in the other classes. So whatever topics are there with me allotted, that I am going to teach that. So please don't do the comparison. Don't do the comparison that part 1, 2 and 3 of the Vision IS material and what is being done in the classroom. This is really very bad. I'll tell you very on the face of you. Those students who are just simply, worried about number of classes and all, forget about that. First concentrate on what are being taught in the classroom, what have been delivered to you in the classroom. You have to go to a long time. You are just RB1 batch. You are RB1 batch. आपके तो बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स अभी कवर नहीं हुए हैं. अभी जीएस में तो और भी बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स हैं. And environment is an interconnected topic. Environment as a subject has a connection with biology, with science and technology, with economy, with current aspect, with polity, governance. A lot of interconnections are there. That you will get to understand when you will be able to cover more than 50% of syllabus. When in your Vision IS classes you are able to cover more than 50% of syllabus, right? Then you will be able to interconnect, join the thread. Right now you focus on whatever been taught by me in the classroom. All right? I am giving you such kind of question practice also, showing you documentary, giving you handout. I am doing all those one and giving you point wise all things on the whiteboard, connecting with that. I am making you understand in a simple way. Because of few of the students, they spoil the broth. They create problems for others in the classroom. Right? Whatever may be that. I have nothing to go into that level. Whatever is that. My only humble request to everyone will be that whatever topics I am discussing in the classroom, whatever I am teaching in the classroom, at least you go and have a look into those 3 handouts of that part 1, 2, 3 of the Vision IS material. There you have detailed explanation part of it. Try to connect with newspaper reading and the current affairs part of it. Right? Don't make fuss. Don't make fuss about that number of classes. Right? So please focus on your study part. Is it clear here? So I am going to give you break. We'll have now a short break. After the break, I will come to appendix. I told you, I am going to teach you all detail. I told you very clearly, I am going to cover in the detail part. And again, don't worry If I require extra class, Vision IS will give me extra class. Don't worry about that. If my portion, the number of topics allotted to me, I feel that I am not able to complete in these classes, I can always get extra class. So why are you worried about the number of classes now, right? And I am covering all the detailed part. Now after the break, I am going to cover the appendix 1, 2, 3 of sites, right? I've already mentioned the 3 appendices are there, appendix 1, 2 and 3 of sites, right? That I'm going to cover, and Ramsar Convention. We'll cover the wetlands part of it. Clear? So I'm giving the break here.
Have you ever stumbled upon an animal while browsing the web that made you say, I want one? For many of you, this immediate obsession can be remedied by thorough research and preparation followed by a trip to the pet store. For others though, specifically those experienced pet enthusiasts looking for something rare and challenging, it isn't that simple, and for good reason. With pet trade being an international industry, we need global regulation to protect vulnerable species. So enters CITES, or the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, an international agreement between 183 governments with the aims of policing wildlife trade and keeping threatened species off the auction block. This is accomplished by listing vulnerable species under 3 categories, Appendix 1, 2, and 3. Each appendix is clearly defined under Article 2 of the agreement. Appendix 1 lists species that have been identified as being threatened with extinction and entails strict regulation in regards to trade and exportation. Exemptions and conditions for exportation are laid out in Article 3 of the agreement. A few examples of Appendix 1 species are the Asian arowana, agave parviflora, and Mexican populations of Antilocapra americana. Appendix 2 entails species that are not currently threatened with extinction, but could become so due to collection of wild specimens. Additionally, the appendix consists of plants and animals that may not be threatened themselves, but have a correlation to the irresponsible collection of threatened species. To better understand this, let's pretend that there are 2 different species of fish, fish A and fish B. They look almost identical as juveniles, but fish A is a threatened species and fish B is plentiful. In order to keep juvenile fish of the species A from entering the market due to misidentification as species B, both fish may appear in Appendix 2. Hopefully that scenario helped to illustrate the reasoning behind this. All regulations regarding trade of species in this appendix can be found in Article 4. One example of an Appendix 2 species is the fly river turtle. Appendix 3 consists of species that are protected in at least one country and indicates that the member nation has requested assistance from other CITES parties in regulating trade and exportation of the species. One example of this is the walrus, with Canada being the concerned party. Article 5 lays out the trade regulations pertaining to this appendix. So when you come across a species that is classified under a CITES appendix, what should you do? If you are insistent on keeping the animal or plant, check the notes in the appendix. Some species are permitted in their domesticated form, or in the event that a domesticated form does not exist, the species may only be listed as threatened in a single geographic locality, meaning the animal can be kept so long that it does not originate from the specified area. Just remember to be responsible. Don't buy illicitly traded animals, buy captive bred when you can, and always check your local laws. You can learn more and view the listed species database by visiting www.cites.org.
Right, you have seen this documentary on CITES. See, in the beginning of the classroom, in the flow chart, I have mentioned was CBD, objectives, then I went into Cartagena Protocol, Nagoya Protocol. We have also discussed supplementary protocol to Cartagena Protocol, Nagoya, Kuala Lumpur, and then we have gone into the topic of Aichi targets. Now CITES, I have mentioned in the flow chart that is called Washington Convention, right? Now just one very important, Anju is asking a question that if any country or a state, right, does not fulfill any protocol, is there going to be any sanction against that state or country? No. Under international law, right, all these conventions and protocols, if the countries are not able to fulfill, there's no legal action, there's no sanction against any such state or a country. Clear, Anju, your question? That whether there will be sanction if India is not fulfilling the protocol, if India is not able to fulfill the Aichi target, if India is not fulfill the objectives of convention, there is no sanction. There is no sanction over the country. Under international law, sovereignty is always one, stands above. The national sovereignty has been always given the upper hand, right? So that cannot be. Like for example, Amazon, that forest in Brazil was burning 2 years back, but international community said so much thing to about Brazilian government, but cannot put a sanction on the Brazilian government in terms of working to protect the Amazon forest. Is again the Brazilian government sovereignty and the initiative to protect the Amazon forest. Same with Indian government's kind of initiative to protect Western Ghats of India. Correct? So that is where it comes. There is no sanction. Now coming to CITES, CITES. So there are 3 lists. The 3 appendixes are there. Appendix 1, 2 and 3. I am putting on the whiteboard, you please copy that. So here, CITES there, Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species. Right here, under the CITES, right, objective part I have already mentioned that. So there are 3 lists are there. Appendix 1, the first list is Appendix 1, then you have Appendix 2, and then you have Appendix 3. Right? Appendix 1, 2 and 3. Now 1 and 2 are very important. Appendix 1 and 2 are very important. These are 3 lists. Right? The 3 lists are maintained under the law, under the CITES there. Now what are the things, this one? Appendix 1. Appendix 1 is that list of species of plants and animals and their samples. What is CITES? CITES deal with international trade. It tries to control the illegal trade of the resources what we get from plant and animals. Sometimes the part of the skin, horn, right, hair, bones, which may be in much demand outside there, and they are killed with that, and they are traded. They're traded in the international market there, right? The smuggling happens of that. So those type of international trade is regulated, controlled under this Appendix 1, 2 and 3. What you have, these 3 lists are there, right? Now what comes Appendix 1? That is a prohibited. Here the international trade, here in this case, international trade of specimen, any kind of specimen, right, or sample of wild animals and plants which are threatened with extinction, right, is prohibited. It is banned, it is not allowed in a normal trade, cannot place, prohibited under the normal trade. Normal trade, unless government permits. In few circumstances, the government may permit that, unless the member country or member party to the convention permits that, unless member party or the government. Sometimes for research, right? Sometimes for research, there may be need of some kind of part of the plant and animal, which need to be sent outside the country. Let's say there may be for particular research in USA or Japan or China, a part of the sample, part of the animal which may be required, and India has to send there. Again, the government will permit, then only happen, otherwise it will not take place. So this is a highly threatened species. They are kept under Appendix 1. Let's take few examples. I'll take few examples here. If we take the examples of species which are under Appendix 1, tiger, elephant, rhinoceros, all those species which are in IUCN Red Data Book, what we have covered in the class, Red Data Book, and they're highly threatened. So here, example, if you look at here, so in this case, the example is a tiger. tiger, then elephant, Asian elephant, right, African elephant, rhinos, rhinoceros and all this. They are brought into the appendix 1. The normal trade cannot take place. Now I am coming to appendix 2. I have already mentioned in the beginning of the classroom. Here in appendix 2, the trade is controlled by the government. Trade takes place, but amount of trade, how much amount of samples will be sold in the international market, that is determined, that is decided by the member party or the government. So here appendix 2, in this case the appendix 2 here. So here this, in this case here, international trade, right, international trade of the sample or specimen of the wild animals or it may be plant, animal as well as plant, is controlled. How much volume will go, that is decided by the government, controlled by the member party or by the government. I'll just give you example from Indian context. It made headlines. There is in Andhra Pradesh, right, Andhra Pradesh, Nallamala Hill, Chittoor, Kadapa and those areas of Eastern Ghats. There is one type of tree which is found, is highly precious tree, what is called red sanders. Red sanders. So let me write here. For example, let's say red sanders. Red sanders. Red sanders is a type of tree, is a plant, is a tree, not animal, is a tree. Rakt chandan kaha jata hai. It is said to be red sandalwood. Red colored wood. The wood color is red in color, reddish color. Is highly demanded item in the international market. China, Vietnam, Cambodia, Southeast Asia, this red colored wood which is obtained from red sander is very high demand. And this is endemic. The red sanders is endemic to the Eastern Ghat. This is found in Andhra Pradesh. And this is what happens that smugglers, right, they go into the forest, they deforest, they illegally cut the tree. Illegally cut the tree and then this log of the tree is sold in the market through the illegal means. Red sander, that is in appendix 2. I am giving the example of appendix 2. Legal route, if you talk about legal route, Government of India, Andhra Pradesh government, they decide how many trees of red sanders will be cut and that amount will be sold by a legal means. That the Government of India control. Dalbergia sisum, right? Dalbergia, I'll give you another example. Dalbergia, Government of India want to remove this sisum from appendix 2. Sisum is another much demanded timber in the international market. So the government want that to remove from the appendix 2. So that is called as where the trade is controlled by the government. Now coming to appendix 3. Appendix 3 is a very different type of list there. Appendix 3 here is a very, very different type of list, what is called here appendix 3. Now what is appendix 3? Appendix 3 is that where the government requests other member governments to control the trade. So what happens here? Here in this a member party or government, right, request other governments, other member countries who are the signatories and have accepted this convention to control the trade, to protect wild animals and plants, their plants and the animals, their parts, animals and plants, right, in their territory, in their jurisdiction, in their national territory, from the trade. So let's say Government of India has already listed in appendix 1 or 2, but may also put in appendix 3, request other governments, they should also stop the trade. That is called appendix 3. A government requests other government to protect wild animals and plants, right, right? Already listed by the government, appendix 1 and 2 from international trade here. Unless until you don't understand anything, whatever facts you take, study material has got facts. When you read visionized study material, the facts are there, all the name of species, everything. But you don't understand the concept, facts are irrelevant, right? First you have to understand what is given there, right? So here on international trade, that is where comes here appendix 3. So what is very important for government to maintain? Appendix 1 and 2. They are important to maintain in terms of controlling the trade. One is prohibited, banned, unless the government permit. 2 is controlled trade. But third is that a government requests others to also protect from international trade. That is called as a appendix 3. Appendix 3 does not mean free trade, that trade can take place. No, that is not. It is again request to the government to control the trade, right? So that's where it comes into this. This is the third list. So now what is very important? All those sites by the UNEP is a UNEP convention. What is that? United Nations Environment Program Convention. So it is a UNEP convention called as Washington Convention. Washington DC in 1973, this convention was proposed. So this UNEP convention, though it is legally binding. What do you mean legally binding? The governments have to follow it. Governments have to abide by. But it does not ask government to bring a law on the subject. Like government of India, Indian government is implementing all this provision of sites, appendix 1, 2 and 3 under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Where we are implementing CITES? We are implementing under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So we have already covered this. These provisions are covered under Wildlife Protection Act. In India, so what is said here? Although it is legally binding, right? Although, I'll write here a star mark, I'll put a star mark there. Although it is legally binding, but it does not ask the member government to bring a separate law on the subject. It does not force a government to bring a national law on this. It can be simply by the list, appendix 1, appendix 2, appendix 3. A government can control the trade. In our case, in India case, we have implemented the CITES provision under our existing law. What is our existing law? Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So, what is very important here? Although it is a legally binding agreement, it is a legally binding agreement, it is an international agreement, what is called convention, right? Agreement, but CITES does not ask, it does not ask a government, right? Ask a government to bring separate law on the subject, to bring a national law. Bring a domestic law. There may be existing law in the country, under that CITES can be added, like India has done that. Or the government can simply maintain a manual, trade manual, appendix 1, 2 and 3. Right? So that can be the part of it. And in India, if we take the Indian aspect of that, in India, right, CITES provisions of this appendix 1, 2 and 3, what I have explained there, are covered under Wildlife Protection Act. Wildlife Protection Act 1972. I've written on the board. I've clearly given there. 2 star marks I've done. Yeah, you know what is problem with few of the students of this batch. अभी पूरी कहानी खत्म नहीं हुई है, पहले से आगे करना शुरू हो गया. I have been telling you from day one, keep patience. I am going to teach you all what is required from the point of view of understanding part, and I'll go through every aspect of that, right? And whatever topics are there with me, I'll cover that. But again, there may be student, oh, sir has said appendix 1, 2, 3 in the beginning of the class, but sir has not done this, that. Very bad habit. First, attend the class. Go through what teacher is teaching, everything. right? Then all your queries will be solved. But what happens, you guys are, overexcited, over worried. I'm sorry to say that. UPSC requires discipline. UPSC requires patience. Dharya is very, very important. Right? And don't worry, I've taught Appendix 1 to 3. I'm also going to teach you now Appendix 1 and 2 of CMS. Right? Please write this. Please write this, copy all this one. And whatever doubts you have, please send to the batch coordinator. Don't write any doubt or any question in the response chat. I've been telling you from day one only. Have you copied the whiteboard? Do you have any doubt regarding Appendix 1 to 3? Anything you are not able to understand about Appendix 1, 2 and 3? Anju, your doubt I have addressed. If protocol or convention is not met by a government, there is no sanction. Have you all copied it? Have you all copied whiteboard? I'm giving you time to copy it. In your batch, there are students who are very sincere students. There are very good students who are following the class from day one. And they are following everything what I am teaching in the classroom. Alright guys, if you have done this one, now I'll come to CMS, Bond Convention. I will now cover the Bond Convention and the two species of the Bond Convention I'm going to cover right now in the classroom there. So we'll see here the Bond Convention. Okay, just watch this.
Wild animals in their innumerable forms are an irreplaceable part of the Earth's natural system. Each generation of man holds the resources of the Earth in trust for future generations. Of the world's more than 1,750,000 described animal species, at least 8,000 to 10,000 migrate. Every minute, every single second, millions of animals are fighting their way through dangerous territories, through skies and seas. Migratory species have always contributed in many ways to ecosystem structure and function, supporting the Earth's web of life. While migrating, many species cross national borders, artificial constructs, meaningless to the animals, but with dramatic influences on their survival chances. Borders not only divide countries, they also separate national legislation and political priorities. The species' fate rests with governments. CMS works by bringing together the governments of its parties to discuss ways of protecting and conserving migratory species.
If we have a vision of the future, it is a future where animals also have a space.
All in all, the aims of the convention are the global protection and conservation of migratory species and their sustainable use. At the very beginning, 29 countries signed the convention. Since then, many more countries have decided to join, taking a full part in this convention with all its benefits. Migrating animals face a wide range of threats to their individual lives and their populations.
Habitat loss, climate change, hunting, bycatch, overfishing, wind parks are challenging the travelers of the natural world.
Gorillas are facing a dire future. We're cutting down their forest, we're converting it to farmland, we're shooting them to sell their meat in the markets, and we're capturing their babies to sell alive to animal traders. All of these activities are illegal.
Human impact takes a heavy toll.
A great number of animals are threatened with extinction. The extinction rate today is up to 1,000 times higher than the normal rate. Extinction is forever. CMS considers obstacles to migration and the imbalance of ecosystems to work out solutions. CMS works with other organizations which bring together the best scientific knowledge. The convention helps policymakers address the crisis migratory species face in the world. As wild animals depend on various ecosystems, CMS recognizes the importance of restoring and protecting the habitats which sustain animals during their migration.
All species have a value, have a scientific value, have a cultural value, have aesthetic value, and are very precious to our very well-being.
Migratory animals have a right to live with us on this planet. The world is increasingly overpopulated. Where natural habitats are increasingly degraded, this organization can make a difference. We work with species on the ground, in the sea, and in the air. We work with many species around the world that are endangered. We work with elephants, gorillas, sharks, whales, birds, marine turtles, and bats. All countries have a responsibility to save their natural heritage, the ecosystem, and the species that make up the web of life. Join CMS to conserve our natural heritage and build bridges for migratory animals across all boundaries.
Right, it is clear here. What I have discussed in the beginning of the class, you are able to see here, right? At the same time, I have already mentioned there, Gopi Setti Sai Pranit. Where were you in the beginning of the class? And this video which I played, what does that mean? What is CMS stands for? Convention on Migratory Species. Gopi Setti Sai, were you there in the beginning of the class? Did you copy the flowchart which I made of the 3 conventions? I have in the beginning of the class, I have already very clearly given the full form of all 3 conventions. CMS stands for Convention on Migratory Species there. Correct? What does the CMS stands for? Convention on Migratory Species of Animals. What to say? The entire, the Ramayana is over and then the person is not knowing who is the Sita. Anyway, whatever may be that, and examples of, many of you are asking the examples of CITES 3, right? CITES 3 examples are same as Appendix 1. Appendix 3 examples are Appendix 1 and 2, like Indian elephant, Indian tiger, rhinoceros, right? All these are there in the part of it. You know what is another problem? I said that don't worry about the facts. I have said that don't worry about the facts. Again, many of you are asking the examples of that. Why? Because you have got habit of rectification. This is UPSC exam. This is not your board exam, right? Facts you have to always remember before the exam. And I have clearly mentioned that what have been protected under Appendix 1 or 2, Government of India will request other governments under Appendix 3 for protection there. So if you want example, because you have a habit of spoon feeding, so let me do the spoon feeding here. So here, example if you want to take there, so here let a tiger, Indian tiger, elephant, right, rhino, one-horn rhino in Kaziranga and Manas. Happy? Satisfied? Khush ho gaye? These are the examples there. Those who were asking for examples of Appendix 3, these are the examples. Correct? So I have been telling you that don't worry about the fact part. First try to understand the concept. Indian government has listed under the Appendix 3 requested other tiger, elephant and all. Muhammad Anas, right? When I am writing anything on the board and I am requesting again and again, write all these points, write and read that. I have already explained so many times what is appendix 1, 2 and 3. Any student of the batch who is not able to that, don't ask to repeat again. You have an option of recorded video. Whenever you get recorded video, you listen it again and again, hundreds of times. You'll get to understand that. Right? But anyway, for Muhammad Anas, I am again explaining that. This, takes the time. But again, for his happiness, so that Muhammad Sahab is very happy. So let me explain here. Appendix 1, I have clearly written, these are those specimen and samples of animals and plants which are not allowed in the trade. They are banned, prohibited, unless the government allow it. Appendix 2, here the government control the trade. Like I have given the example Red Sanders. How much the trade will take place in that is the government of India will decide. That is called Appendix 2. Or any government in their country will decide. That is Appendix 2. Appendix 3 is that list where government requests other government to protect from the trade. They may be either on the Appendix 1 or 2. Happy Muhammad Sahab? Now you are satisfied? I have explained again. Did you understand now? And all others who are not able to understand? So please read whatever I am writing there, please read again. Alright? So anyway, I am cleaning the whiteboard. I am now going to the Appendix 1 and 2 of CMS. You all have copied it? Let me ask that also. Have you copied it? Let me ask that also. Have you copied or not? Let me see how many of you copied there. Kunal Dakre, Kunal, what I'm saying again and again? What I'm saying again and again in the classroom? Kunal, what I'm saying again and again in the classroom? Government of India, every government. So this list will be maintained by what? Each government, not the global. Each government as a member party will have Appendix 1, 2, 3. Government of India will have Appendix 1, 2, 3. Government of China will have Appendix 1, 2, 3. And please, I am asking you again and again, don't put your doubt here. If you have to get your answer query, send it to the batch coordinator. They will forward to me. Right? Every country as a member party will have 3 lists, Appendix 1, 2, 3. So now I am coming to the Appendix 1 and 2 of CMS. Let me now come to the Appendix 1 and 2 of CMS, and then I'll come to the Ramsar Convention. Now if you take here Appendix 1 and 2, so in CMS here, Convention on Migratory Species, now again here you have 2 lists here. What you have seen in the documentary here, that is again here Appendix 1, but don't mix this appendix with other appendix, right? Appendixes simply means a kind of list. Now given the fact different conventions may have different type of appendixes, so here it is maintained 2 times, right? Appendix 1 here you have a list of migratory animals. It contains a list of migratory animals, right, which are highly threatened with extinction, right, which are highly threatened with extinction. Where the extinction risk is very high. Right, those animals which are land based or maybe birds, maybe aerial, at the same time marine also, which require urgent protection, part of their priority species. If they are not conserved under the CMS, then they will become extinct in near future. So they are kept into appendix 1, right? Appendix 2 here, appendix 2 in this case of CMS or Bond Convention, that is a species which are not very threatened with extinction, but they may get benefit from conservation. If the government protect those species, then they will get benefit from the conservation initiative of the government. But at the present time, they are not highly threatened. So you can say that as per IUCN Red Data book, they may belong to near threatened, least concerned, right? Those species. Here in appendix 1, they are vulnerable, critically endangered, endangered species. But in the case of here appendix 2, they are not highly threatened right now. They are not very high threatened right now, but they may become threatened in the coming time if their conservation is not done. So here there is a list of migratory species. Right, there is a list of migratory species which are not, right, I am using not presently threatened to extinction here. But they may get benefit from being added to the appendix 2, right? Their low priority species are there, right? But may benefit if they put in the appendix 2, but may benefit from conservation there. But they may benefit from the conservation. This is called appendix 2, right? So this is where you have to remember that, where you have to understand the concept part. The factual thing you can read from the handout. There the factual things are given. All right. So I'll now move to the Ramsar Convention. Now we'll go to the Ramsar Convention part. We'll discuss about wetlands and the Ramsar Convention. Right. We'll now go to the conservation of wetlands. Right. We'll go to the Ramsar Convention part of it. I hope you all are clear with this appendix 1 and 2 of the CMS. So now let's go to the. Let me see if you have any doubt, then I can address those doubts here. All right, so it's clear there. You all have copied it. So I'm now going to the next level. What wetlands and the Ramsar Convention. We'll go into the Ramsar Convention. The last convention will cover that. So I'm going to clean the whiteboard here. All right. So all of you copied it. I think when I'm writing on the board, many of you are writing also there. So if you have copied it, then I'll clean the whiteboard and then go to the wetlands, wetland conservation. Have you all done it? Shall I proceed there? All right. So now let's understand about wetlands, and so let us first understand what is a wetland there and why it is important for wetland to be conserved. Then in that context we will be able to see Ramsar Convention. We will be able to understand the Ramsar Convention and the objective part of it. So wetland, when you come across the word wetland, land which is covered with water, right? So first let's understand what is a wetland. Let's understand the concept of wetland here, right? Now wetland concept here, because continuously in UPSC exam, you'll find questions are asked on the wetland and the Ramsar site. So what is a wetland here? First point is that a wetland is a land, right, submerged. Their land which is submerged, or let's say inundated. They're flooded, right, inundated, or saturated. Let's say they're saturated with water. Right? What is a wetland? A wetland is a land which is flooded or submerged or inundated or saturated with water, right? The water is filled in that land, and then over a period of time, like here, as the water on this land which gets filled up, right, it filled up for a seasonal, there may be sometimes seasonal rainfall, let's say when there is a heavy rain, right, the river, the river may have overflooding, right? The overflooding of the water to the banks of the river, where the water gets collected. On those number of water pools are formed there, right? Or sometime, let's say in Himalayan range, where the melting of glacier, where the glaciers can melt and the snow melt and the water comes and then get flooded in an area. That can also result over a period of time as a wetland. So what is very unique about wetland is that the second point comes here, it may have a seasonal, right? The wetland which is formed, let's say here examples, if we take examples of wetland, let's say swamp, right? Wetland example, if you look at, the example is swamp, daldal bhumi, the land which is filled with water. So let's say swamp, then marshy areas, right? Some kind of, so river flood area, flood plain, sometime there will be flood plain, right? Flood plain and all, where the water gets collected. Not all lakes are wetland. There are few examples of lakes which can be qualified to become wetland. There are certain conditions are there. There may be certain type of lakes which will be qualified to become a wetland here, which can qualify to become wetland. Now what is conditions here? The third point, what are the conditions which make or such kind of a water bodies as a wetland there? And what are the conditions which make such water bodies as wetlands? The first condition comes here, that is the seasonal. There may be a seasonal. There may be seasonal, or sometime there will be permanent presence of water. Right, there may be seasonal or permanent presence of water. Right, Bajab said rainy season and all, water gets flooded there. Second, what condition comes here? The soil, like upper layer of the soil, right? Upper layer of soil of such wetland is highly saturated. There is high level of saturation of water, is highly saturated with water. Since for a long period of time the water remains there, so upper portion of the soil of the wetland gets saturated with the water. So the pores of the soil get filled with water. So there is less air or less oxygen. So that result into anaerobic conditions. It results into anaerobic conditions. Right, this result into anaerobic condition, absence of air, absence of oxygen, and this anaerobic condition lead to decomposition of organic matter. Whatever the organic matter, let's say floating plants and all, which they die and they get buried, so they get decomposed because of the bacteria. There may be bacteria and all which will break down the organic matter. Dead organic matter will be broken down. So here, so anaerobic condition, this is the anaerobic condition resulting into decomposition, resulting into breakdown or decomposition of organic matter. There is another very peculiar nature of a wetland. That's what I said. All types of lakes will not be called as wetland. If any lake satisfies this particular condition, particularly shallow lake, shallow water, not very depth water, shallow water, they come into that. So here resulting into decomposition of organic matter, and there is a presence of, this is what is called as there is a type of soil, what is called as hydric soil. I'll write here. There is a presence of the soil called as a hydric soil. There is a type of soil called as a hydric. So that's what I said as geography. How the environment topic get connected with geography, this is the part of the geography. Right? This is the part of geography. And I told you that whichever area of the topic which geography teacher don't have to cover, I will cover in my environment class. So your geography teacher may say that okay, wetland will be covered in your environment class. So I am covering in the classroom. Right? I am doing that one in the classroom so that you understand what is wetland. Clear? So that's what comes here. Hydric soil. Hydric soil which comes into that, the type of soil where you have higher humidity, higher amount of water, saturation is very high, and then result into decomposition of organic matter. Like you know the example of pit land. Pit is a dead organic matter, humus, what is called humus there. Now what is another thing as per condition is that A wetland here, you have a submerged, there is a presence of submerged, or you'll find floating vegetation, floating hydrophytic vegetation, right? Water-based aquatic vegetation are there. You'll find this aquatic vegetation which is present on the wetland, submerged or floating aquatic vegetation. There will be floating plants, there will be floating aquatic plants, or maybe submerged plants found on the wetland. There is another very peculiar characteristic of a wetland, like swampy areas, marshy areas and all, you will find that. So here submerged or floating aquatic vegetation are found there. And then what you find here, it supports the biodiversity, amphibians, reptiles, sometimes there may be mammals like dolphins and all found in the wetland there, right? So these are the three very important characteristics what I mentioned about a wetland, right? What I've written on the whiteboard here, right? Which makes a particular place as a wetland. So whether you take pitland, swamp, marshes, floodplains, some type of example lakes, they'll all become a part of the wetlands there, right? Is it clear here? Please keep on writing whatever I'm writing on the board so that I can give you more information on that. Peat is a type of a dead decayed organic matter from the plants. That's what called peat comes in there. And peatland also becomes an example of wetland there. Now what is very important, that wetland, if you look at, wetland as a dynamic type of ecosystem, different type of, diverse type of ecosystems. It can be inland, it can be coastal, it can be fresh water, it can be brackish water, it can be saline or marine area also there. So there are different types of wetlands. So I'll now go to the classification of wetlands. We will now learn in the classroom types of wetlands, classification of wetlands. And I'm going to use the classification from a very important atlas prepared by ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, has prepared an atlas of a wetland of India in 2011. I'm going to cover that part also there, right? So wetland atlas here, I'll come to that. So there is a classification. If there is a classification of wetland, even Ramsar Convention also classify. So but there is a classification of wetlands, right? And in context of India, we are following for conservation the classification of wetlands as per the National Atlas of Wetland. Classification of wetlands as per the National Atlas on Wetland prepared by ISRO in 2011, National Wetland Atlas of India. What I've given the fourth point here, the classification of wetlands as per the National Wetland Atlas of India. Right, National Wetland Atlas of India, that is where the classification comes into that. So now let's understand here. I'll now do the classification part. We'll now see the classification aspect of the wetland, and I will present that classification in a form of a flow chart. We'll take the example of a flow chart of the types of wetlands, which are the different types of wetlands there. We'll see into the classroom there. So here what I'll do here, I'll just remove this upper part. Point 1 and 2 I am cleaning the whiteboard. I am keeping the point number 3 and 4 so that those who have not written can write that. So let's look at here the types of wetland. As per the National Wetland Atlas of India, the types of wetlands here, the first level of classification is that those wetlands which are inland. And in India, highest number of wetlands are inland wetland. They are found linked with rivers, major rivers. Ganges, Indus, Brahmaputra, Kaveri, Krishna, Godavari, the major river system there. So here, types of wetlands if we look at, first comes here inland wetland. And second comes here coastal. We have wetlands which are water submerged area in the coastal areas also there, right? Now apart from that, we can further classify the inland wetland into two types. Either they are naturally occurring, natural inland wetland, or it can be artificial or man-made inland wetland, right? Same way in the coastal site, coastal area, we can also divide the wetlands into two broad categories. They are either naturally occurring coastal wetland, or we can take here man-made or artificial coastal wetland. So what is first classification? All the wetlands in India, either they are inland or coastal. Now 73% of geographical area, 73% of geographical area of India is occupied by inland wetland linked with rivers, whereas 27% we have the coastal areas, coastal wetlands. So I am giving you the breakup also there, how their division. So if we take geographical area, all the states and union territories of the country, and as per this atlas of the ISRO, National Wetland Atlas, so 73% of the wetlands found in India are inland, linked with river systems, linked with rivers and the drainage system pattern there. Whereas 27% are on the coastal areas. Now, among the inland 73%, we can divide here 43%. You will find here 43% of the wetlands, right? 43% of the wetland, the inland one are natural. Remaining 30% are man-made. What are man-made? Reservoir, aquaculture pond, where we carry out fisheries, aquaculture, right? Reservoir. Then you can take inland also floodplain, this paddy cultivation, paddy, where we have rice, dhan ki khet, rice cultivation, paddy field. These are man-made. These are the artificial one, right? They come into the artificial one, and natural you can always you can take examples of lakes, swamp, marshes, all this one. Now if we see the breakup here out of 73%, so 43% are natural inland, and remaining 30% are artificial man-made inland wetland. Now in the coastal areas, if you do the classification, in the coastal areas of wetlands, natural types are again higher. So here in this one are 24%. 24% are natural and just 3% are man-made artificial wetland on the coastal area. Like for example, if I just give you example, salt pan, salt, where the salt is made, the water is taken and evaporation of the water, the salt is made. You will find in Maharashtra, Gujarat, number of coastal states, salt making, salt pan. Sometimes there may be aquaculture in the coastal area, shrimp, right, shrimp farming and all, oyster, that they are the man-made wetland there. Now again the next level is that whether you have an inland, natural or man-made, or whether you have a coastal, natural or artificial, again based on the salt, concentration of the salt. They can be fresh water, or there may be a moderate salinity, that is called brackish water, and then or maybe sea and ocean coastal area may have highly saline salt water. So based on salt content, there can be fresh water, brackish water or saline, right? So next aspect what comes here, that is in terms of fresh water, right? You have a fresh water, let me write here. It can be either of them. That can be fresh water or it can be brackish water. Most of, see, brackish water can be inland also there, right? And salt water can also be inland. You should not get this understanding that brackish water is only coastal area, like lagoon, Chilika lagoon. But if I give you example, Sambar lake in Rajasthan, from the Jaipur to Nagaur in Rajasthan, this is the largest inland salt water lake. You all are aware of Sambar Jhil, Sambar lake in Rajasthan. Is inland salt water lake. It's salt water. It is not a fresh water, it is a salt water, right? So here inland can also be salt water lake. At the same time, salt water can be also in coastal area. So depending on the salinity, fresh water or brackish water, or it can be completely salt water, saline water. Right? So what your geography teacher has said, that this will be covered in your environment class. This is what I am doing here. It is very clearly understood between geography teacher and environment teacher, what are the areas they have to cover and what are the area environment teacher has to cover. What I am now explaining in the whiteboard. And so three conditions are there. Seasonal permanent presence of water. Upper layer of soil is highly saturated with water. Decomposition of organic matter. Right? That is a hydric soil, HYDRIC, hydric soil. Submerged and floating aquatic vegetation. And then the classification. I have given you percentage wise. So that is based on the atlas, National Wetland Atlas of India. Right? I hope you all have copied it. Please copy this one. See, again remember that if I am giving you a break, then I'll definitely write National Wetland Atlas of India. If I am giving you a break, then definitely I will extend for 10 to 15 minutes after 8 o'clock. Right? So I am going to extend for 5 more minutes. Alright. So please write it down. कुछ लोगों का 8 बजते हैं ना घंटा बजने लगता है 8 बज गया, oh my god, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and they will start disappearing from the class. हो सकता है कोई टीवी सीरियल आ रहा होगा right? So but again, all of you who are there in the classroom, that's good, that's what I want, motivation from your side, right? Clear there. So all right, now look at here, why we need to protect wetlands. Now the thing is that why we need to protect the wetlands and why they're important. That's an important part of it. Why we need to protect the wetlands, why we need to conserve the wetlands, right? So I'm now coming to 5th point here. Okay, this somebody was asking in the response portal, this is National Wetland Atlas of India. The last line you were not able to see, so let me write here, right? Now here 5th point here, what are the importance of wetland here? Why we need to conserve wetlands? What wetlands serve to human beings? So I'll bring into the following point. The first one is the economic. It has got economic values. Economic values attached with the wetland, right? Wetland provide us the economic benefits. What are the economic benefits what we get? Let's say here aquaculture. In terms of fishery and aquaculture, oyster farming, right? Pisciculture. Water for irrigation can be taken from the wetland. Large wetland can provide water for irrigation. So let's say irrigation. Irrigation part of it. The economic benefit can be there. Then again aquaculture. Then again ecotourism. Sometimes people in terms of ecotourism that may be linked with the wetland. Ecotourism there. Right? These are the benefits what we can get from the wetland. Economic benefit. I am just giving few examples. Few examples are written. Second are basically here the ecological importance. What are the ecological values with the wetland here? What are ecological values? What we study as an ecosystem. In the beginning of the environment class, I taught you ecosystem. The services what we get from ecosystem. And here is the water bodies. So here, what are the ecological aspect? Recharge. It recharges the groundwater. Recharge of groundwater aquifers. Wherever the wetlands are there, right, groundwater aquifers, they get recharged. The water table will not fall, will not go down. So recharge of groundwater aquifers. It also recycle. It also help in the recycling of nutrients. Recycling of nutrients, carbon, nitrogen, all those nutrients. Even the wastes also there. Some type of plants which are found, there are aquatic plants on wetland, they may filter. They filter the waste material. Biologically they can filter waste material. There may certain type of plants, aquatic plants on the wetland, right? So nutrient cycling can be there, recharge of groundwater can be there, right? Then again support biodiversity. They have richness in biodiversity. Highly rich in species there, richness in biodiversity. They're highly rich in biodiversity, right? There are different type of species which are found in wetland. There may be birds, migratory birds coming to wetlands, like Kevladev Ghana National Park in Rajasthan, right? Or let's say Pulicat Lake in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu border there, Chilika Lagoon in Odisha. There may be some migratory birds, flamingos and all, which may be coming to that, right? So there may be birds there, mammals like dolphin can be there, otters can be there. Then also at the same time, wetlands can also support aquatic plants, plant species, hydrophytic vegetation. Wetland can support fishes, invertebrate. Wetlands can support frogs, amphibians, reptiles like turtles, tortoise, right? So they're rich in biodiversity, their richness in biodiversity. At the same time, wetlands also protect from natural calamities. Storm, flood, like mangrove. If you take mangrove vegetation, mangrove is a swampy wetland. Swampy condition, swamp is there, where you have a mangrove plants growing, Sundarban Delta, Bhitarkanika, and mangroves can protect the coastal areas from storm, cyclone, even tsunami, sea level rise because of climate change. All can be done through the mangrove, and mangrove swamp is an example of wetland in the coastal area, natural wetland. So here it can also protect from natural calamity, right? Protection from natural calamities, storm, flood and all natural calamities, it can protect from the natural calamities there. Now the third point which I am writing here, cultural, it may be linked with cultural, traditional and religious values, and religious. So local people or local communities, their livelihood, right? Local people's livelihood depends on the wetland. Let's say aquaculture, fisheries, and sometimes the local community's religion, right? Religion on that, cultural aspect, belief, customs may be linked with wetlands. Like in Kerala, there is a Ramsar site, wetland of international importance, Ramsar site under Ramsar Convention. In Kerala, there is called Sastam Kota. So there is a temple of Sasta temple in Sastam Kota in Kollam, Kollam, Kollam district of Kerala, Sastam Kota, Sasta. So there may be some kind of religious aspect which are linked with the wetlands, cultural values linked with wetlands, right? So this is where the part of the importance of wetlands come from the human perspective there. Livelihood of the people depends on that. At the same time, the religious, cultural aspect are also linked with the wetlands in that area. That's where I've written cultural, traditional and religious values, which is connected with the wetlands part, right? So this is another aspect which you have to keep at the back of the always mind whenever you're reading newspaper, current aspect, and you're reading about wetland, right? So this is the importance which we get, the attributes, the values which we derive from the wetlands. All right, we'll see the part of it, don't worry about that. So please copy this, I will be stopping the class now, but please copy the whiteboard. If you have copied the whiteboard, I'll give you an assignment question and we'll carry on the discussion in the next class, right? But again, if you have copied it, have you all copied it? Have you all copied it? Any doubt you have, anything you want to ask? Have you all copied it? Please respond to me if you have copied it. So I am stopping at the importance of wetland. I will continue with the discussion in the next class. All right. So I am stopping the class now here, and let me give you assignment question. I am giving you the assignment question here. So your assignment question is that I am giving you a very simple question. I'll just give you assignment question there. The assignment question is this one. Let me give the assignment question here. So your assignment question here of today's class, the assignment question. Assignment question is that what is wetland? What is wetland? Give few examples of wetlands. And next part of the question is that briefly mention benefits of, or let me write you briefly mention significance of wetland. Right? So this is your homework assignment question. You have to answer in 150 to 200 words. Please read from the Vision IS material or whatever material or book you have. Please try to read this one and try to write this assignment question. Right? What is wetland? Give few examples of wetlands. Briefly mention significance of wetland. Briefly mention significance of wetland, and then you have to give the examples of wetlands. Now the next class, topics will continue with wetland, that is the threats to wetlands. We'll discuss Ramsar Convention. Then we'll go to the Wildlife Protection Act, the salient highlights of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Wildlife management. We'll have a wildlife management projects. Project Tiger, Project Elephant, and then we'll also end with the Biodiversity Act. This is the next class topic there. We'll discuss threats to wetlands, Ramsar Convention, and in Ramsar Convention we'll study about Ramsar sites and all, Montreux record, Ramsar site. We'll discuss salient highlights of Wildlife Protection Act and Biodiversity Act 2002. We'll study about NBA and all, National Biodiversity Authority, State Biodiversity Board, all those areas I'll discuss in the classroom. And then Wildlife Management Project, Project Tiger, Elephant, Rhino, all those areas. That will be our topic in the next class. Alright. So I have given you the part of the here understanding part. So we'll stop the class here, right? And I hope that whatever I'm teaching there, I'm giving you sufficient time. And I told that don't worry about number of classes. I don't want to hear from you again this thing, number of classes. I don't want to hear from you. I told you that if I need extra class, I can always request the management to give me extra class. But whatever topics have been allotted to me to teach in your batch, I will complete those topics which are given to me. That work I will do it, right? If there is a need, I will ask that of the extra class. But the topics which are given to me, I will teach those topics. Which topics are not provided to me, I will not teach those topics. It is only as per the lecture plan decided by the vision. So whatever topics have been there, that I will cover there. And for covering that topics allotted to me, if I require extra class, I will take that. Clear there? So I hope that you are able to understand the part of the class, and I thank all of you, right? I thank all of you to be staying even after 8 o'clock. Others have disappeared from the class. They will always disappear, right? But you all are there in the classroom. Well done. Clap for you, right? You have to maintain this positive approach in terms of preparation of exam, and you have to always maintain this positive attitude and motivation level in terms of preparation. All of you who are right now, you well deserved student, and you are really very good student, right? So if I am scolding you, if I am saying something to there, so don't take in your heart, right? Dil pe mat lena. I am only saying for your benefit. Alright? And I know you all are very good students, very sincere students, and you all can crack the UPSC exam and clear the UPSC exam. Alright? So thank you everyone, and good night. We'll meet in the next class. Thank you. Thanks a lot.